Okay guys, we finally made it. We are in the best season of the entire year. It is officially fall. All right, you guys, so y'all know I have been looking forward to this season since I started my YouTube channel earlier this year. I cannot stop talking about fall, Halloween, spooky season, all things autumn. And now that we are finally here, I am so excited. I think just like everybody else that's out there, everybody looks forward to fall because we love the crisp air, the leaves falling from the trees and changing colors, the smells when you're outside of the burning wood and kind of the moist air, and the way that it feels when you walk outside and you just have that little bit of a chill to the air and feeling like you want to cozy up with a warm blanket by the fire with a warm cup of coffee or apple cider or tea, whatever makes you feel warm and cozy and fully autumnal in your heart. That is what makes autumn autumn. And it is the time of year to celebrate that. And to do that, I thought I would do a video for you guys that just walked you through some of my favorite things about this time of year. So I have a list of books, some movies and some TV shows. I've also got a few activities that I personally love to do during this time of year. And lastly, I thought I would throw in a small handful of content creators that I love to look at year round, honestly, but this time of year especially. These people put out some beautiful, amazing decorating ideas, video, beautiful pictures, clothes. So I just wanted to kind of mention those people and give them a shout out because you need to go check them out if you haven't. So grab yourself whatever drink warms your heart during this time of year. Grab yourself a warm blanket and let's get right into this cozy video. Okay, you guys, so to start, I have a list of books. I think I maybe have 8 or so on this list. And these are books that I personally have read and would recommend to anyone to read. It's got a good mix of some novels, some graphic novels, some middle grade. So I just thought that I would share these with you guys. And I have another video coming that will be my personal fall and spooky season TBR. But for today, I just wanted to focus on the books that I have read and love and would recommend to anyone to read during this time of year. So to start, the first book I have, I actually loaned out to my sister, and she is currently reading it right now, but I do have the dust jacket, and that is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This book really took me by surprise. I had heard from many people that this story was a take on And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie. I love that she is the queen of mystery. I really enjoyed that particular story, and so I thought I would just pick this up. I also thought that the setting looked so spooky and autumnal, and with the coastline and the really spooky kind of gothic mansion up there on the cliff. And so I started reading this book and just thoroughly enjoyed it. This book is about a girl who goes to her grandmother's house, which is the house there on the cliff, with her family for her grandmother's birthday to celebrate. And this particular house is in a very deserted part on the coastline, where when the tide comes in, you are pretty much stuck there until the tide goes back out again. And in most cases, for us homebodies, that'd be perfectly fine. We could curl up by the fire with a book and enjoy the time where we don't have to go anywhere or do anything else. But in this case, it leads to murder. So What happens is there is a family that one by one through the course of a night, they start getting picked off. And I don't want to give too much away, but it is a very, very good, thrilling, atmospheric murder mystery. And trust me, it will keep you guessing until the end. And the ending, I tend to be able to pick out endings very, very easily. I just have a tendency to be able to kind of read along and say, oh yeah, they did it. But this one really took me by surprise. So if you're looking for a good atmospheric fall read with an ending that will blow your mind, pick up Daisy Darker. Okay, the next book that I have, I read, let's see, it was earlier this year. I think it may have been a couple of months ago. And I absolutely loved it. When people say this book is like a warm hug or a warm cup of coffee, they are 100% correct. And I think every single person on BookTube and Bookstagram have recommended this book, but of course I have to do the same thing because it deserves it. And that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And this book just made me feel all the feels. It's about an orc named Viv who has been fighting all of her life, and she's ready to hang up her sword and kind of take a step back and enjoy the sweeter things in life and live a little bit more slowly. And so she moves to a new town and she opens up a coffee shop. And the coffee shop is an idea that she got while she was out on the road, traveling around and on her different missions. And she picked up this thing that is coffee. And no one in this new town that she has moved into knows what that is. It's a brand new thing. And so everyone is very hesitant in the beginning. They don't know what it is, but through the course of the story, they grow to love what she is doing with coffee. She comes up with different ways of making coffee, different drinks. She meets some new friends, and one of them is a little mouse that has sort of the green thumb of the kitchen, if you will. He has the ability to make these amazingly delicious and savory and sweet, beautifully created desserts and breakfast pastries. And so that is something that she kind of puts on the menu, and as word gets out about these delicious things that they are making at her coffee shop, it becomes more and more popular. And it's a great story about found family and being true to who you are, and just kind of living life the way that you want to live it. And it's a sweet, sweet story. So I highly recommend this one. It's a good fall read to kind of cozy up by the fire and take in even in one sitting, because it is so good. Okay, the next handful of books that I have, unfortunately, I don't have physical copies of because I just did a spree through the library, ended up reading through all of these from library copies. So I'll just put pictures up for you guys. But the first one is A City Baker's Guide to Country Living. And I actually learned about this book through Heather at the channel Bookables on BookTube, and it was not one that I honestly would have ever found if it hadn't have been for her. But when I say it is like a Hallmark movie in a book, but with a little bit of an edge, that is exactly what it is. So if you love those stories that just have very atmospheric, autumnal feelings to them, that really describe baking and the ingredients and what it smells like, and being absorbed by all the aromatic smells in the kitchen, that is this book. But at the same time, it has a very good story behind it of a woman who has a bit of a mishap in the kitchen in her really, high-class restaurant in the city. And so she ends up going and living in this new small town where her best friend lives, who is expecting to have a baby. And she just wants to be closer to her and kind of start anew. So she ends up going there and getting hired by the local B&B to become the new chef there. And so you get to hear about all the things that she makes, what she can bring to the table that this little small town has never seen before from her, executive pastry level of experience. And it goes through, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's like September through November or something like that. So you're getting really all of the fall autumnal feels in this book, and there's a little side of romance, of course. And so I don't want to give a whole lot away, but it's a very sweet book. It's one that I ended up going through very quickly and really enjoyed. So I highly recommend that one for the fall season. And then the last novel that I have that is in the witchy category, I read, I think it was in February of this year, but I just couldn't wait because I was really wanting just a fun witchy read. And so I went with the Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. And let me tell you, I think I've talked about this on another video, so I won't go too deep into it, but I loved this book. I know it had gotten mixed reviews and it was a little too wishy-washy for some people. Some people loved it. I am absolutely obsessed with this story. I think it's the perfect mix of comedy and romance and witchy and all the autumnal vibes because it takes place right around Halloween. But it's a woman who had dated a man at one point when she was, I guess, around like early adult college years, and they have a bad breakup and she gets very angry, and so she decides to cast a hex on him, and he moves away, goes back to his hometown of Wales, and she doesn't think anything comes of it because nothing ever happens. She doesn't ever hear from him again. Well, years later, he moves back to her hometown of Graves Glen, which is very much like a small town like Stars Hollow. And she owns a little shop with a bunch of like witchy souvenirs and trinkets and that kind of thing that's kind of like at the center and the heart of the town. Well, he moves back into town because he is part of he is part of the sort of cream of the crop witch families. His bloodline gives power to the ley lines in her town, and so he comes back to recharge the ley lines. They meet each other. Chaos kind of ensues because once they're back together again and he is in this town, things start to go a little bit haywire, and she starts to think, oh my gosh, maybe the hex actually worked. So they end up having to team up together for something having to do with the magic and the ley lines, and at the same time, like, feeling chemistry for each other again, but this hex is going on at the same time, and so it's got a lot of comedy to it. I love the way that Erin Sterling writes her dialogue. The Ex Hex was kind of like, it's got a special place in my heart because it was one of the first witchy books that I had ever read, and just I absolutely loved it. So definitely recommend. You should go check it out. Okay, so I have one middle grade book on this list, and I talked about this back when I was doing Bookathon in the spring, and I loved this story. And it was called Small Spaces by Katherine Arden. And this book got me. I did not expect a middle grade book to scare me and creep me out the way that this book did. So it's about a girl who is in middle school who goes on a field trip to a farm to learn about the way a farm works and agriculture and things like that. And she is in the process reading this really odd book that she found one day called Small Spaces. And it kind of talks about this like myth or urban legend of this town that she is going to visit, where the farm is, and some really creepy things have happened with the scarecrows that are there. And I personally am terrified of scarecrows. If I'm near one, I honestly feel like they're just gonna jump off the stick and attack me. Like that's just how it is. I think they're real people in disguise. So this book scared me to death. But she ends up going on this field trip, and they get stranded on the side of the road as they're trying to get back home. And all of a sudden they start hearing these weird noises. And so she knows what she's read in this book, and she's trying to tell everybody on the bus, we need to be worried about this. Like, we need to run and get out of here because something bad is about to happen. No one believes her, and so she decides to leave the bus, and she has a couple of friends that follow along with her, but everyone else stays behind, and really creepy things start happening. And so I go and read this one for yourself. Katherine Arden did a fantastic job with this book. I highly recommend, especially in October, because it is definitely a spooky read. Okay, the next two books that I have are graphic novels, and I will talk through these pretty quickly, but they are just so perfect for this time of year. Fall, autumn, Halloween, and I've heard these on many people's lists before, and rightly so, because they are fantastic for autumn. So the first one is called Pumpkinheads by Rowell, and this book is like every autumn lover's dream. If you're anything like me, you want to go to the quintessential pumpkin patch with orange leaves on the trees, like apple cider booths, pumpkin pie over here, bobbing for apples over there, hayride behind you, like riding horses around the corner, like all the fun things that come with a pumpkin patch. This book has all of it and then some. And it is a sweet story about two teenagers, a boy and a girl, who have worked at this same pumpkin patch for year after year after year. And the boy is a real go-getter, has wanted to try and get kind of like employee of the month for the pumpkin patch every single October that he does this. And he works so hard and puts so much time and effort into this that he never gives himself the opportunity and the time to be able to go and talk to this one girl that he has had his eye on every single October that he's worked there, and she also works at the pumpkin patch. Well, this is their last year to do the pumpkin patch because they're growing up and moving on, and his best friend, this girl, decides to help him be able to finally get up the courage and take the time to go and talk to his crush. And so they go on this wild goose chase around the pumpkin patch to try and find her, and along the way they do all the things. They taste all the treats, they do all the activities, and it's so fun and so nostalgic and so perfect for autumn, and a very good read for any time during this season, but especially in October when pumpkins are just all over the place. And it's a really sweet story about these two characters kind of finding out who they are and what they really want. And there is, of course, a romance that happens, and it's just really fun. So definitely recommend this book for fall. And then the second graphic novel that I have to recommend is called Hollow. And this book was really fun to read. It is a take on the legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it is about three friends, which really they're like three unlikely friends that come together to try and figure out who this person is that they keep seeing riding around on a horse with no head, but holding like a jack-o'-lantern in his head as he rides around town. It's this urban legend, but the three of them have seen it, and they're trying to figure out the mystery. What is it? What do they want? Rather than being scared of it, they decide to take a chance and try to solve the mystery no matter what it takes. And so you get all the fun things about fall in this book as well. And these three friends kind of with the found family aspect. It kind of has that nostalgic vibe to me with like the Hardy Brothers and the Boxcar Children, where they're like running around town trying to figure out this mystery together. And along the way, they become really good friends. And so it's one that it's a very quick read because it is a graphic novel, but it's beautiful. It has, you know, all the fall colors. And so that is one that I would definitely go pick up during this time of year. And then the last category in books, I have two cozy mysteries. The first one I know has been on so many people's lists before, and that is In the Company of Witches by Rowell Wallace. And this book, I'll be honest with you, for the first like 80 pages or so, I think it was like the first 9 chapters, I was loving the vibe. They refer to a lot of things about autumn with the leaves falling on the street and crunching under their feet. You know, the wind gusting through the streets as they're walking to the town, the kind of the middle of the town. And just lots of different references to fall. But the story itself took me a minute to get into it, but once I got there, it was amazing. I loved this book. In fact, this will probably be in like the top 5 books that I have read this year. I loved it that much. It's about a woman who has lost her husband, and she is a witch and has 2 aunts that are also witches that she has moved in with and is living with in their B&B because of the fact that her husband passed away. And since she's lost her husband, she kind of closes herself off. She doesn't want to practice magic anymore. She's very, very sad. But one night at the B&B, there's a woman who drops dead, and one of her aunts is actually kind of in the spotlight for the one that everyone thinks killed her. And so she, this woman has to feel comfortable with using her magic again to be able to help her aunt. And in the end, you find out how she died, who did it, and kind of seeing her fall back in love with her magic again. And there is such a wonderful ending to this story about her and her husband and her magic and her family. And honestly, I bawled my eyes out. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I cried at the end of this book, and that does not happen to me very often. This book was so good and so sweet, and a very, very good book to read during this time of year, especially if you're not looking for anything too spooky. It's very cozy and a very, very good mystery at the same time. And then the last book on my list is called Death Overdue. This story is also a cozy mystery about a library, and it is set during Halloween. And so you get a lot of, the Halloween references, and there's a little party that takes place in the library for Halloween where everyone dresses up in costumes. And of course there's like punch and snacks and decorations and pumpkins everywhere, and it's just a really, really fun read for this time of year. But it's about a woman who takes a job at a library, and she starts seeing ghosts, and she didn't know that she could see ghosts until now. And she has to try and use that special gift to solve a murder, not only a murder that happens in present day to a police officer at an event that she puts on at the library, and he just kind of drops dead at the table, but there's also a murder that happened years and years ago that the actual police officer who dies in present day was trying to solve. And so she obviously feels like they're connected, and she uses her gift to be able to solve that mystery. And there's a little bit of a romance on the side. This is a book in a series. I think there's 7 books total, and this is the first one. So if you're looking for a cozy mystery series to start this time of year, but for actually to be a fall book, this is a perfect one for you, because you can start with Halloween and then continue to read the series after this. So check that one out if it's one that you would like to read. Our next category is movies, and I've got a few on here, but these are the ones that I always gravitate towards every single fall. I have to watch them. There's just so many good ones on this list, and who doesn't love to have a Halloween movie on like literally 24/7 at this time of year? So the first one is Halloween Town, and this is a Disney Channel original movie from back when I was a kid, and so it's very nostalgic to me, but it is like 100% Halloween to the max. About this girl who realizes that she has witchy powers. One night on Halloween, her grandmother comes to visit, and she kind of overhears some things about she might be a witch. If she doesn't, kind of start using her powers by her 13th birthday, she's going to lose them. So she ends up following her grandmother to Halloween Town, and she gets to meet all of these creatures, werewolves, ghosts, vampires, all the things, and it centers around this town square that has a massive jack-o'-lantern. So she has to try to help her grandmother figuring out what mystery is going on at Halloween Town, and along the way she is discovering her powers. So it's a great movie for this time of year. It's perfect if you want something that is like 100% Halloween vibes. Of course, I could not get away without mentioning Hocus Pocus. This movie is on my list all the time. I won't spend a lot of time on it because everybody knows how much everybody loves this movie. It is a classic for a reason. I honestly don't think when this movie was made that any of those people realized what it was that they were making and how unbelievably popular it was going to be, but for good reason. The colors are all there. The sights are all there. The witches, the humor, the one-liners. I mean, it is a perfect movie for this time of year. If you haven't seen it, what in the world are you doing? Another classic Halloween-centered movie is a movie called Monster House. And this is a cute one that my boys love to watch. It is pumpkins and orange all over the place in this movie. It's perfect for Halloween. And it's about a boy that lives across the street from a house that he thinks is not haunted, but almost possessed by a spirit. And he thinks that it is actually alive. And so this story is about him and two friends trying to figure out, is the house alive? Why is it coming to life? What does it want? And so it's very much a story about found family and just a really good, spooky, kind of childlike movie that is perfect for this time of year. One movie that I have to watch every year that is more on the spooky, scary side of things, of course, is the 1978 version of Halloween. Michael Myers, out of all of the crazy like serial killer movies that are out there, Michael Myers is at the top of the list. It is a perfect Halloween movie. Obviously the name says it all, but this movie to me is just like the best, with a young Jamie Lee Curtis, jack-o'-lanterns all over the place in this movie, and it's just a classic for a reason, and it is one that every year I have to go to and make sure that I watch. And then this last category that I have for movies is like old classics. I feel like I have never heard people talk about these movies, and I don't know why, because they are so good. I grew up on these movies and I watch them every year, and I cannot wait to recommend these to you. If you have not seen them, you have to go watch them. They are perfect for if you want a little bit of something spooky, some mystery, some murder, but nothing that's actually that scary. They're very, very, very comical. They are so good, and ones that I would recommend hands down for anybody to go watch that loves a good classic mystery movie. The first one is Young Frankenstein. So this particular movie is about a man whose grandfather was actually the person who created Frankenstein, but he does not want to be associated with him at all. He doesn't like when anyone talks about him, to the point where he says that his last name is Frankenstein. And this is a parody, so there's a whole lot of dry humor in this movie. It's actually, the main character in this is Gene Wilder. If you don't know him, he was Willy Wonka in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. He's done tons of movies. This particular one is so funny, and he does such a wonderful job of making you laugh, but also kind of freak you out at the same time, because he acts like a crazy person. But there's so much dry humor, so many good one-liners. He goes to the mansion or the laboratory where the original Frankenstein was created, and it's almost like his grandfather's spirit is willing him to do this experiment again and try to create his own version of Frankenstein, while he wants to have nothing to do with it. But he gets overtaken by this will in his mind to make another Frankenstein. And so it's really, really funny. It's, I think it's from the 1970s, and it is one that is absolutely hysterical. Gene Wilder is a genius, and if you have not seen this movie, you have got to go watch it. The next movie I absolutely love, based on a board game. I think more people have seen this one than any of the three movies I'm going to talk about from this category, but everyone has to go see it if you haven't, and that is Clue. And so it has all of your classic characters from the board game, Miss Scarlet, Miss White, Professor Plum, the whole list. And what's so fun about this movie is that you actually get to see the board game play out in real life. And so you've got all the different rooms, the library, the kitchen, the conservatory. Someone dies. It is an A-list cast. I'm talking Tim Curry plays the butler, and he is the funniest person I think I've ever seen. And so he does a wonderful job in this movie. It is such a funny movie. And so this movie is about a murder that takes place, and all of these characters are trying not to act like they're the ones that did it, obviously. And you've got people kind of coming to the door of this like really secluded like mansion, Gothic mansion that they're in. A police officer stops by, a person who gets stranded in their car stops by, and the whole time these characters are trying to hide a dead body, and so that no one knows that this has happened, and they're trying to figure out how it happened while working around all these people that keep showing up in the middle of nowhere. And it is absolutely hilarious. Definitely a great one to watch around this time of year, because it's set with a very atmospheric, like rainy, dark, stormy night at this Gothic mansion. And so I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. And then the very last movie in this list is The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. And this movie is going way back to the 1960s. The lead character is played by Don Knotts. And if you don't know Don Knotts, he played Barney Fife, Deputy Sheriff, in the Andy Griffith Show. And this man is at the top of my list of one of the best comedic actors I have ever seen. His physical comedy and his dry humor is so on point. What's so funny about him is that he tries in, I feel like most of his roles, but The Ghost and Mr. Chicken especially, he really tries to put himself out there as a very serious, like strong, courageous person who he wants everybody to take seriously, but deep down he is the biggest scaredy cat. And this story is about a man who is a journalist for like a small town newspaper, and there is a like really creepy abandoned house that is like on his walk home. And as he's walking by this house one night, you know, you've got the leaves falling, the gusty wind outside, you can hear the wind howling. I think it's like even storming with the lightning. It's like the perfect mood setting. And he's walking by and he hears like organ music playing from the attic of this really creepy house, and no one else is around to see it. And so anyways, he goes out and he tells the town, "There's a ghost. I know there's a ghost in there because no one lives in this house and I heard somebody playing the organ." And everyone's like, "Yeah, right. Of course you would say that because you're a journalist and you're trying to make a story." And he's like, "No, you have to listen. I'm being serious." And no one believes him. And so he says, or maybe somebody dares him, I can't remember exactly, to go stay for one evening in this haunted house. And he, being the guy that he is, wants to be all tough and act like he can handle it. And so he agrees to go and stay the night in this house. He is the biggest scaredy cat. And all these really strange, creepy things start happening when he's in the house. There's, you know, a hidden like staircase. There's maybe a ghost. There's an organ playing with no one sitting at it. There's like creepy sounds, creaking floorboards, all these kinds of weird things that happen. And the way Don Knotts plays it, he is so funny and makes you laugh along the way, even though he looks like he's absolutely terrified. And of course, at the end, you find out what's really going on. And it's such a fun movie to watch around this time of year. So if you haven't seen it, go watch The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Okay, so the next category that I want to talk about is TV shows, and I have to start with literally one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I am obsessed with Stranger Things. And I'm sure everyone and their brother and their sister and their niece and their uncle and everybody has seen this show, but I have to mention it because personally for me it is literally one of my favorite shows ever. There is just so much nostalgia in that show. I am obsessed with the 80s. You know, that is the music that I was listening to when I grew up. There's just something about the 80s that I love. And it's so fun to watch a show where you are just completely immersed in that decade. And they do such a good job of using all the right music, all the right clothes. The sets are fantastic. And I love that all the while you are watching this really creepy monster hunting thing going on, and the characters are individually so good and so unique, and the actors who play them are so wonderful, but like as a band of characters, you just can't beat it. It's so good. But the show, if you haven't seen it, it takes place in the 80s. It's about a group of kids who, there are 4 of them, and one disappears one night. And you come to find out that there is a monster on the loose in this town called Hawkins that they live in, which I think is in Indiana. And these 3 boys have to go on a search to find their missing friend. They come across a young girl who has special abilities. She can do things with her mind, and so they use her as an asset to try to help them find their missing friend. You've also got the mother of the missing friend and the brother as well, searching for him, and then the local police chief, who is played by David Harbour, and he is literally one of my favorite characters ever. I love Chief Jim Hopper. He's got such a dry humor, and it's so funny as like deadpan as he is. He also has such a sweet heart and has, you know, feelings for all of these kids and helping them stay safe and not be in danger anymore. So it is a really, really good show, especially around this time of year because of the monster aspect. But you've also got like a whole season that takes place right around Halloween, which is fantastic. That's season 2. So give it a shot if you haven't. 100% recommend. The next show obviously goes without saying. Gilmore Girls has to be at the top of everybody's list for fall because Stars Hollow is like the dream town that everybody wants to live in, where you have your local coffee shop, everyone knows everybody. You know, you can walk into a place like Luke's and they know your order by heart, and before you even sit down they're pouring you a cup of coffee in a giant mug, and kind of this entire story centers around this town of Stars Hollow, and the townspeople are so funny and so unique, and the stories are just really, really heartfelt. You've got a mother and a daughter who they are each other's lives and they're best friends, learning their way as they go, kind of being friends, but also having that mother-daughter dynamic and knowing where that line is. But there's romance, there's tons of holidays. We love the fall episodes. I definitely love this show so much, and watching it right now as a matter of fact. So definitely love this one for the fall. So Gilmore Girls will always be on my list for this time of year. Another show that I am obsessed with and watched religiously every week when it was on, like live on cable, was The Vampire Diaries. And I still love this show so much. It came off of like the back end of the Twilight series craze. And I haven't read the books for The Vampire Diaries, but I have seen the entire show. Love the characters, love the actors. There's a great love triangle between the 2 vampire brothers and a local townsgirl. And so it's set in this town called Mystic Falls, Virginia. It has the perfect atmospheric setting for the fall, for spooky season. You've got, vampires, you've got werewolves, you've got beautiful settings with graveyards and, blustery winds in the town square with the fall festival celebration, Founders Day celebrations for the town. It's just all the quintessential things that you love about a good small town story. But then you've got the craziness happening on the side of these vampires that are going around town wreaking havoc, and no one even realizes that it's them that are doing this, that they have vampires living amongst them in the town. You have a ton of found family trope in this show, and all the episodes just continue to build on each other, and it just gets better and better and better. So I absolutely love this show, and definitely if you haven't seen it yet, give it a chance. I know Vampires for some people has maybe had its heyday and now it's past, but if you haven't seen this one, it is very good. I think there are, 6 or 7 seasons, so it's one that you could just jump on the binge train and roll right through, and I highly, highly recommend it if you have not yet seen it. Another show that to be honest with you, haven't watched in a couple of years, but when I did watch it was so good and so funny. For this time of year, there is so much spooky stuff, scary stuff. I'm such a big fan of sort of like the murder mystery genre where you got someone who dies, and then there are a ton of people who look so suspicious, but at the same time, they're all kind of trying to find out who did it. There's obviously one person that is doing a very good job of pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. But this show in particular, I was crazy about when it came on, and that is Scream Queens. For those of you that haven't seen this show, it's kind of hard to explain, but it is just literal madness. It is like a spoof show of all of your favorite scary movies. And you've got the classic girl running from the killer or from something really scary, and she trips and falls over a branch and then she can't get away, like that sort of thing, except times 100. And it's like all of the ridiculous things that happen where you're screaming at the TV with a scary movie saying, "Why are you doing that? Why are you running towards the killer?" All those things are in this show, and it is so funny. It's supposed to be completely ridiculous and comical. Jamie Lee Curtis is in this show. As everyone knows, she was the OG Scream Queen, and she is so good in this show, and I love that she came back to do this, going into that genre again. But if you have not seen it yet, check it out. I want to say there are only 2 seasons, so it's not a lot of a commitment, but it will be well worth your time. It is so funny. It takes place at a college, and there's a murder that takes place. There is someone who is masked that's running around scaring and terrorizing everybody, and it's they just keep popping up everywhere and people keep dying, and all the while you're just laughing hysterically because of the way that they present this in the show. So very, very funny, very scary at times, like the jump scares. Great for this time of year going into Halloween. If you have not seen it yet, definitely go check it out. And then the very last show that I want to recommend, because I am an avid home baker. I love to bake yummy, yummy treats. I've already talked about, coffee and making those coffee drinks at home. I just love getting in the kitchen and doing fun things like that. So one of my favorite things to do around this time of year is to watch other people bake. And because fall baking is such a huge thing in my house. And so one of my favorite shows to watch is the Halloween Baking Championship on Food Network. And every year they have, I think it's around 12 contestants that they start with. Some of them are, professional pastry chefs. Some of them are just home bakers like me, who maybe have like a home business where they're doing online sales for cakes and that sort of thing. And it's a competition. And so every week they have to bake something that is themed, like maybe a cake that has, when you cut into it, things come out, like M&Ms sprawl out of it or something like that. There's a very specific type of food they have to make and a theme to it. Every single week has a theme, and it's so spooky, but so cute spooky. They have the whole kitchen decorated in Halloween, and the host is a comedian. He's hysterical, and I just love how themed it is and how you get to watch these people go through this competition, and each week there's an elimination, and at the end, of course, there's a grand prize. And it's really fun to root for the people who are maybe home bakers like me. But many seasons of that show exist. If you have not seen it yet, go check it out. If you're a big foodie like me and you like to just watch people bake absolutely delicious stuff, that's the show for you. So the next thing is just a few activities that I really like to do around this time of year. One of them was like a one-time thing that I've tried but would love to try to do again, and then the others are things that I do every single year during autumn. So let's get right into it. So the first, of course, you have to go to the pumpkin patch. Like, everybody loves a pumpkin patch. It is absolutely, my birthday is October 27th, and so I am like just a few days shy of my favorite holiday, Halloween. This is my absolute favorite time of year, and so I absolutely love to immerse myself in anything and everything fall. I'm crazy about it. And so when I get to go to the pumpkin patch, like, I would live at the pumpkin patch if I could do that and they wouldn't like want to throw me out, because I'd be sleeping on hay in a barn with a bunch of animals. But I absolutely love when I get to go to pick out a pumpkin. You get to walk down the rows and rows of beautiful orange pumpkins, going on the hay rides, smelling the fresh air, seeing all the beautiful leaves changing. There's, of course, all different kinds of activities you can do, like food trucks and face painting for the kids and petting zoo and like slides that are made out of, you know, giant tubes and all kinds of things. It's just, we make a whole day of it here in our family. So that is absolutely number one for me every single fall. Another thing I love to do is to get outside, take a book with me, grab a blanket, get a warm cup of coffee, and curl up, whether it's on a porch swing or in a rocking chair or underneath your favorite tree, and just sitting down, taking a moment for yourself, blocking out everything else, enjoying the sounds of nature outside, enjoying the cool, crisp breeze on your skin, and being able to just immerse yourself in your favorite atmospheric fall book. That is something that I love to do. I do it as much as I possibly can. And, you know, all of my other book lovers out there, you know what I'm talking about. If you've never tried it, you've got to try it. Another thing that I think is so fun, as much as I love coffee, is I love to try out my own coffee drinks here at home. So instead of going out to Starbucks every single day and spending money on a latte, I like to go on Pinterest or look at other YouTubers and see what kinds of coffee drinks I can create that, you know, contain my absolute favorite fall flavors: brown sugar, maple, pumpkin, white chocolate, like all of these yummy flavors. There are so many recipes out there that you can find and just try at home, and it almost makes it even sweeter when you know you've made it yourself, and it makes it even more enjoyable. And then the last activity that I got from Darling Desi from a video like maybe 2 years ago, when she made her own blankets, and I loved the idea. We in this house are crazy about blankets. As everyone knows, during fall, we all love to cozy up underneath a blanket and get super warm with our favorite drink, watching our favorite movie, reading our favorite book, playing a board game with our family, sitting by the fire, all those things. You need a blanket. And so I actually made this blanket here, and pretty proud of it, if I do say so myself, but I used Desi's tutorial video to be able to create this blanket, and it was so easy. It took me probably like 3 hours, which really in the grand scheme of things, when it's lasted me since last fall, and it's, you know, not coming apart anytime soon, it's so warm. I got to pick out the color that I wanted, and this is something that you can make for much, much cheaper than going to somewhere like Pottery Barn to find a very similar blanket for a much more expensive price. And it was much more rewarding because I made it myself. And I suggest, you know, to make these types of blankets for birthday presents, holiday presents, because they're so cozy and everybody loves a good blanket, and you put in your time and effort to make it. So highly recommend giving this a try. And I will link Desi's video down below so that if you're interested in giving it a go, you can go check out her video, which has a great tutorial on how to do this. Last category that I want to talk about is content creators, because I feel like these folks really deserve credit for all the hard work that they put into what they do, because they make and put out beautiful content throughout the whole year, but especially during this time of year. So to start, I have to give such a huge shout out to Kyle James Patrick. I'm sure so many people know who this family, this brand is, but it is, you know, my absolute favorite clothing brand. But they also have a beautiful, beautiful Instagram account where, you know, they live in Rhode Island and they get the changing leaves with all the colors. They are obsessed with fall. I'm pretty sure their favorite holiday is Halloween. I really feel like I am a kindred spirit to them, and so I love checking out their account. They post all the time, great video, beautiful photography, and of course their clothing and their accessories are top of the line. I'm actually wearing one of their sweaters right now, which is so warm and cozy. You know, the sleeves are long enough for me. I am 5'10" tall, and so I'm a very lengthy person, and so for these sleeves to be as long as they are, I absolutely love that, especially during the fall, because you know you want to be able to get your hands really deep down in those sweaters to stay nice and warm and cozy. But also their patterns and their designs are top-notch, things that you truly want to wear. Everything they make is made in the US, and it's just, I mean, I couldn't recommend them enough, and love to shop their brand, love to follow their account. So shout out to Kyle James Patrick. So I've got a few YouTubers that I really love to check out all year, but especially during this time of year. One of them being the Tim Tracker. He is a man that lives in Orlando, Florida, and his YouTube account is where he goes to Universal Studios and Walt Disney World like all the time, and especially during this time of year I love to watch, because he goes to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, and he does Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at Walt Disney World, and he shows you all the things, the best food to get, what the parties are like, what the after parties are like. He shows you the characters in their costumes. He gives you all kinds of tips and tricks when you're at the parks, and he does such a great job. So if you haven't seen the Tim Tracker, definitely go check him out. A couple of other YouTubers, Desi. I have to mention Desi at Darling Desi. She is so great and such a fun personality. I feel like I really connect to her and her content because she loves the fall. She loves being cozy. She loves, you know, using her hands and being crafty and really just enjoying the world around her and taking in all the sights and the sounds and just really absorbing everything that's around you, and not just letting the days go by, you know, enjoying every minute. And so her videos and her content is something that I watch and wait for all the time. If you're looking for a good booktuber for this time of year specifically, I love to watch Lexi at Alexandra Roslin, and she does really, really great book reviews, TBRs, upcoming new releases. But I love, because she reads so much, she's able to put out a lot of different recommendations so that you're not hearing the same things over and over again. But she loves Halloween as much as I do, and so I always gravitate towards her channel when it's fall and Halloween, and she does a lot of different like types of book categories, like, you know, cozy mysteries, spooky books, haunted house books, witchy books, romance fall books. Like, it's just, I love watching her channel. And of course she does it all up with the Halloween and the fall decorations, and you can just tell is really passionate about this time of year, so it's really fun to watch her too. And the last individual that I would love to give a shout out to on YouTube is Lauren Nicholson. So this was years ago. My sister lives in Georgia. I live in Alabama. And so there was one day that we were like Zooming with each other just to be able to see each other's faces and have some sister time. And we were looking for something to watch on YouTube that would be great decorating ideas for Halloween. And as we were flipping around, she was like, "Have you seen this girl, Lauren Nicholson? She did a porch decorating video where she hung witch hats all around, and it was so cute." And so begins my Lauren Nicholson era. Now Lauren and I are friends, love to talk about her and promote her when I can. And she's such a sweet, sweet lady. She's got a beautiful family, 4 kids, and to know how she finds time to do what she does with all of her amazing decorating ideas and inspiration with everything else she has going on, I will never understand. Like, she is super mom. But if you have not seen Lauren's videos, you've got to go check her out, because her time of year where she really shines is fall through Christmas, and she puts up so many videos, so many great inspirational decorating videos. If that's your thing, you've got to go check her out. She also does homemaking. She shows you organization, recipes that are to die for, and she also has a very beautiful Instagram account. So I'll link all of this down below so you guys can go check out these other content creators that are really great for this time of year. And then the last thing that I would say for YouTube that I would recommend is if you just want some good like background music, or like you know, mood settings for if you're reading a book or doing some work from home. I love to put on backgrounds on my TV on YouTube and just listen to the nature sounds, listen to maybe some jazz music, things like that, but be able to see the autumn colors with the leaves falling, and maybe like the sound of someone pouring a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, you know, the chatter of people, different things like that. And so I have just a few that I would like to mention for some beautiful backgrounds with some really, really pretty sounds to kind of get you through the day. Would be Autumn Moment, and then the Alley of Sounds, Fern Ambient, and then the last one is Autumn Cozy. And the reason I like these in particular is because their graphics look so real. You can hear the water rippling if you're watching a lake video, or you can hear the rain hitting a window pane, you know, with a flickering candle in the window as the pages of book are being heard. It's just so realistic and so lifelike, and calms me and really allows me to be able to focus on whatever I'm doing at the time. So that's something that if you're into that sort of thing, those channels are top notch, and I would highly recommend going to check them out. Okay, that does it for all of the recommendations that I have for fall. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, that you got something out of it that maybe you haven't heard of or haven't seen before. If you like this video, let me know. I may end up doing more of these instead of just doing like book videos, because I really like talking about all the things that I love too. So if you made it through this whole video, because I know this was a lengthy one, I could talk about fall all day long. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully your coffee stayed warm and you stayed cozy. And I just really hope that everybody has a fantastic autumn season and that you guys get to do all the things that you want to do to make your heart full and happy. So I will be back very soon with another video. And until then, you guys stay cozy. Thank you. Bye.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.